The election campaign in Hungary, Zelenskyy has become an unexpected player, and a new or well-forgotten old military trio shakes the world. That's in our episode. Let's unpack the details and put you in focus on these hot events. This is UATV. Be sure to follow us on YouTube and socials for the latest news and unique stories. The election campaign has started in Hungary, and it seems the main rival to Viktor Orban is Volodymyr Zelenskyy and a few other leaders too. Their images are placed on billboards without their permission, with the slogan "Let's not them decide for us." Ukraine's EU integration is presented as a threat to the whole nation, while Orban is once again playing on fears. And how Kyiv is responding, watch next.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is using the war in Ukraine to serve his own interests ahead of the parliamentary elections. This is what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said in an interview with the Hungarian outlet Válasz Online. Zelenskyy emphasized that Orbán's policies are anti-Ukrainian, manipulative, and pro-Kremlin. According to the Ukrainian leader, they do not reflect the views of the entire Hungarian society. Zelenskyy also opposed the use of his image on campaign billboards and posters by Orbán's political team.
Viktor's policies are, unfortunately, directed against Ukraine and against Europe. He is using this issue in his domestic politics. He wants to exploit the war in Ukraine for electoral gain. That's not fair. I can't smile and shake hands when I see what's really going on, because reality shouldn't be separate from politics. If you're ready for honest relations, we can find a framework. But using my face in your own election campaign? I never gave my consent. I'm the president of another country, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine. In an interview with the Hungarian outlet Válasz Online.
As Hungary gears up for parliamentary elections, Viktor Orbán has made Ukraine a centerpiece of his campaign. For example, identical flyers and billboards have appeared across Hungary, featuring the faces of President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and European People's Party President Manfred Weber. The slogan on these posters reads, "We won't let them decide for us." In Orbán's campaign narrative, Ukraine's path to EU membership is portrayed as an existential threat to Hungary. The Hungarian government has even organized a so-called consultative survey about Ukraine's EU accession, a move the Hungarian opposition calls pure propaganda. Orbán himself has publicly voted against Ukraine joining the EU, citing concern for national interests. But later, in an interview with French journalists, he gave an entirely different explanation.
At first, countries were accepted into NATO, which was a military security guarantee, and only then could they join the EU. But now that's no longer possible. If Ukraine joins NATO, it would immediately mean war between NATO and Russia. For us Hungarians, and for Europeans, it's not in our interest to face the threat of war or direct conflict with Russia.
In the same interview, however, Orbán also said that Russia is weak and should be dealt with from a position of strength, because it has failed to defeat Ukraine. According to Orbán, Russia does not pose a real threat to NATO.
The Russians are too weak for that. They can't even defeat Ukraine, so they're certainly not capable of launching a real attack on NATO.
Hungary's next parliamentary elections are scheduled no earlier than 2026, and for the first time in 3 years. A potential centrist opposition coalition made up of the parties TISA, Democratic Coalition, and Momentum is polling above 50%, according to the Hungarian outlet Telex, citing the Institute for Marketing and Social Research. Viktor Orbán and his Fidesz party might not even make it into parliament for the first time since 2010.
Among all eligible voters, 29% support the TISA party, while Fidesz has 26%. By March 2025, TISA had increased its voter base by 300,000, compared to Fidesz's 100,000 since November of the previous year. From a report by Telex.
In March 2025, after Viktor Orbán announced the launch of national consultations on Ukraine's EU membership, Péter Magyar, leader of the opposition TISA party, launched a parallel initiative. The alternative poll, called Voice of the Nation, was held across all Hungarian towns and cities. In response to the question, "Do you support Ukraine's accession to the European Union?" nearly 60% of respondents answered yes, reported by Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
The world is witnessing a new escalation in military technical cooperation between Russia, Iran and North Korea, from transferring technology for attack drones to supplying missiles and even manpower. The Kremlin is finding ways to sustain the war in Ukraine and increase threats to global security. Watch our next report for more details.
The technologies for producing Shahed-type attack drones, transferred from Iran, pose a threat to South Korea's security, stated Kirill Budanov, head of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense. According to Budanov, Russia will assist Pyongyang in establishing drone production capabilities, which Moscow has significantly upgraded since the start of its full-scale war against Ukraine. The Russian army has mastered scaling their production and equipping drones with combined 90-kilogram warheads, sometimes filled with shrapnel, to increase their destructive radius.
The ability to produce the Shahed family of drones, in particular, which has been the most prolific long-range aerial threat to Ukraine for years, is being given to North Korea. Originally provided by Iran, Russia is now building about 2,000 per month, with plans to increase that to 5,000 per month. Russia is continually improving their range, payload, connectivity, and attack patterns. Having Shaheds will give North Korea the ability to hit targets anywhere in South Korea, and potentially in huge volumes. They can overwhelm the South's air defenses, paving the way for attacks by other munitions, from a publication by the War Zone.
According to the main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine, as of May 2025, the Russian army's arsenal includes approximately 600 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and nearly 300 Iskander-K cruise missiles. The production pace does not allow the aggressor to maintain the intensity of attacks on peaceful Ukrainian cities. North Korea has come to its allies' aid. Since fall 2024, confirmed evidence emerged that Pyongyang is supplying Russia with KN-type missiles, analogs of Iskanders. The initial batch was of poor quality. According to Ukraine's prosecutor general, half deviated from their course.
With the beginning of the transfer to Russia, they were flying with a deviation of a few kilometers, but now they are exactly hitting the target. This is the result of the common work of Russian and North Korean specialists. Also, there is the modernization of the aviation means of engagement, long-range air-to-air missiles. They had huge problems with the carriers of these missiles and the firing from their C component, and Russians are helping them with this. And the great demonstration of this for everybody is this famous KN-23 ballistic missile. Now it's an absolutely different missile in terms of their technical characteristics. The accuracy is increased many times. Kirill Budanov, chief of the main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine, in an interview with The War Zone. Through this type of military technical cooperation, the Russian Federation underscores that despite the bravado of the occupier's general staff, there are insufficient Iskander reserves. If Russia's military-industrial complex had the capacity to replenish aeroballistic weapons, there would simply be no need for cooperation with North Korea in supplying ballistic missiles.
According to a recent report by the UN's Multilateral Sanctions Monitoring Team, since September 2023, North Korea has transferred over 20,000 containers of munitions and related materials to Russia. Additionally, from January to mid-December 2024, Russian-flagged cargo ships delivered up to 9 million artillery shells and rockets for multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS. Meanwhile, Pyongyang increasingly showcases modernized attack drones, tanks with enhanced electronic warfare systems, air defense systems, and air-to-air missiles, clearly indicating Kremlin assistance.
Russian oil and gas exports are not just Russia's problem. These super profits allow the Kremlin to rally allies, strengthening cooperation with Iran, North Korea, and China. Pyongyang supplies Russia with millions of artillery shells, delivery systems, drones, and ballistic missiles. The weapons that Russia and its allies produce today are aimed at Ukrainians. However, tomorrow, these weapons could reach other parts of the world and be used against U.S. soldiers or the armies of other partners.
North Korea has also sent another batch of manpower to Russia, stated Kirill Budanov. According to him, Russia's Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu reached an agreement with Kim Jong-un during his latest visit to Pyongyang. North Korean citizens are expected to replace labor migrants from Central Asian countries. Additionally, they are likely to sign contracts with Russia's Ministry of Defense and be sent to Russia's war against Ukraine. Reported by Larissa Petruk, UATV News.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Drop them in comments. Stay in focus with UATV and stay safe.